Welcome to the Modern Investing Podcast, where we're talking all things investing. I'm your host, Josh Giordani. Follow us on all of our socials below. Special guest today, Brian Daly with Revive San Diego.
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
I'm
excited.
glad to be here.
I know, me too. And our conversation kind of already started before this all took place.
Ourselves.
Yeah, we did. So you have done 450 transactions in the last 10 years. Is that kind of...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a little bit more, but
do you
it's
have
okay.
the exact number?
Okay. No, I don't.
You don't have the exact number?
No,
What,
it's
is it
500,
over
500 plus,
okay,
somewhere around there.
Cool. So this is exciting because you're going to be a wealth of knowledge in this, and I'm excited to have a few different conversations.
Yeah.
So I know you went from real estate, mortgage, asset management, and then what made you decide to go into real estate investing?
That's a long story. Okay. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 17 years old. I got it. My parents got it for me for Christmas. Didn't even know what it was. They didn't even know what it was. I don't even know why they got it for me. I never asked for it. It wasn't like I was into personal or professional development books at that time. As far as I remember, that is the first book that I got that I was like, okay, this is like, I enjoy this. Mm-hmm. I enjoy learning about this stuff. And I got it for Christmas and was in my stocking. I took it upstairs with all my gifts, and I literally read it cover to cover before I came downstairs. And that usually we used to, like, the old tradition, we would go eat breakfast. I don't think I ate breakfast. I just read that book. I was hooked. I knew at that point that I wanted to flip houses. I wanted to own rental properties. I wanted to invest in real estate. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was. We weren't destitute by any means, but we grew up. When I grew up, I remember specifically thinking often we don't have any money. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember why, but that always stuck with me. So I always was very conscious of money. And so when I read that book, I was like, dude, this guy's got it figured out. You can own real estate, and then your money is making money for you. You're not living in lack. Mm-hmm. I just remember living in lack. And so it was always something big. So anyway, long story short, that's why I got into real estate investing. Everything I did from that point forward, even though it wasn't a straight line, I knew eventually that I was going to go into real estate investing. And I knew that I wanted to do flipping specifically because for, just like everybody else, the HGTV stuff, the idea of doing that just absolutely captivated my mind. I remember when I was a kid, like 8, 10 years old, I would draw houses. Like that would be my fun thing. I would just make a house, and I would come up with all the different fun rooms that I would make in it.
That's cool. And
so for whatever reason, it's been in me since the beginning, and that book kind of unleashed it to made me realize is what I wanted to do. So again, it wasn't a straight line, but I went to college originally to be a veterinarian. I thought I was going to,
That's very different.
I know, not only a veterinarian, but a big animal vet. I came here, I chose San Diego specifically because they had the zoo and the wild animal park. Mm-hmm. One semester, dude. I took a couple biology classes, and it was a terrible noise in the warehouse. Took a couple biology classes, and I was like, nah, this is not what I want to do. Changed to finance, and then just made the commitment I'm going to go into real estate. So,
did you get your real estate license first, or did you go into mortgage first?
Both.
Okay, so you got your mortgage license and your
same time. I didn't get my mortgage at that time. They didn't have the MLS.
Yeah,
I'm dating myself.
Right.
No, I got my real estate license in 2005. I graduated in 2005. I started working in that small mortgage shop in 2005. So,
and then 2000 after that, you were at Atlas for how many years?
I think 3 years.
3 years, and then afterwards, you decided to go straight into real estate investing, right?
Yeah. It was at Atlas. We started moonlighting and to buy property. So me and my business partner in my first venture, we worked together at Atlas.
Right.
And so
you worked with a lot of people that are in the industry with us right now.
I know. That was great. I mean, it makes sense with the amount of transactions we did. There's a lot of smart people that learned a lot there.
So when you left Atlas and you were like, all right, I'm going to go into real estate investing, how much, did you guys start wholesaling, or did you guys have capital saved up already to where you were like?
It didn't start that way. So we, I made the decision that I wanted to get into real estate investing as I was still at Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
Started kind of working on it with my former business partner there. And we were just like, something happened in the foreclosure industry. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but like our workload like drastically reduced for a long period of time while we were at Atlas. So we're like, well, screw it. Let's just, while we're here, I mean, we got to do something. Let's go try to buy property. So we started trying to buy properties. Actually, funny enough, we tried the route of going to raise money first. We're like, let's raise money.
You got kicked in the teeth with that.
Yeah, that lasted about 3 months of like, everybody was like, yeah, sounds awesome, but prove it, right? So then we started the wholesaling route.
Gotcha.
So we started getting momentum. Like we were trying to do this for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
We started getting momentum about 6 months into 2011, and or was it 2010? No, I don't even remember. I think it was 2011. And we started wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
We had no money. We each had $2,500. We put it in for a $5,000 EMD. My partner I think he sold his boat. He had like a boat to get his money to be able to do this. Like we didn't have money.
I mean, that's kind of an awesome story to start out. Having zero money to start doing it, but that's how you have to do it.
Yeah, unless you're you're a trust fund baby, or you're really well connected by through other people that are willing to take a chance on you. I mean, I honestly think it's the best way to start because it forces you to be creative and learn and gritty and a lot of things that it forced us to do that because of that, it made us better investors and better business owners. So we did that. I think the first time we had no idea what we were doing.
That's what I was gonna ask you, if you guys got like coaching or you hired someone to like do behind the scenes. Cause even 2011, like now I look at wholesaling and it's popularized, but 2011, 2012, I don't think that like it was very mainstream.
Well, this was all before
social
info. Yeah. Like the whole info biz.
Right.
Now everybody's a wholesaling guru So, there were stuff out there, and I'd listen to like, back then when it was like, you still get on CDs and stuff.
I was gonna make fun of you and say cassette tapes, but
yeah, I'm sure I had some of those too. Okay, so no, funny enough is, okay, as an asset manager, I literally sold properties all day long. I mean, we handled 300 properties at a time. We were selling 100 properties a month for at least 2.5 years when I was in that role. We sold a boatload of properties. Right. I knew a lot about real estate. I knew how to talk to real estate agents. I still didn't know what the hell I was doing with wholesaling properties. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood the concept, but I didn't understand the dynamics of it. So we knew how to get a property locked up and we knew how to run the numbers, but we didn't know what to do. So after that, and so we found somebody we met at a networking event, and he was a wholesaler, and we said, hey, we got this property in the contract, but we don't know what to do with it. We'll pay you. I think we said 25% of the fee or 20% of the fee. Just walk us through it. Like give us your documents and help us figure it out. So we did that, and that's what we did. He told us what to do. We did it. He did some of it for us, but not much. Right. We made $12,000 wholesale fee. We paid him $2,000, and so then we had $10,000 plus our EMD back, and we're like, oh man, this can work. Right. We did that 4 more times that year in 2011, and then we built up like a nest egg enough to be like, okay, we can. We didn't take any of that money. We didn't spend it. We were not marketing. We were just this was all off the MLS talking to agents, and that was really easy back then because there was like 50,000 homes on the market.
Yeah, it was a little different market then.
So yeah, we once we had those reserves, I went to my business partner. I'm like, hey, he was expecting a baby, so he couldn't leave. But at the beginning of 2012, I went solo, independent, and luckily, at the time, which is my biggest advice is just keep your monthly budget really low, right? When you don't have many monthly expenses, you have options, and it removes all the stress. So we didn't take any of the money, we didn't spend it. Like I see a lot of people do a couple of deals and they go buy like a car or something. Right, it's like the worst thing you can do. Right. Save it, keep your monthly nut low. And we were able to, at that point, like justify me going full time. The company out of the company nest egg was going to pay my salary to pay my bills. It was like $2,000 at the time, that's what we did for the first 6 months. I went solo. Then he joined
Eventually,
after he had his baby. He came and then we were off to the races.
So what was that? What does that nest egg look like? Like how much money was that? So people can get an idea on like how you guys got started with.
Well, we had $40,000 to $50,000 from the wholesale fees saved up,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up getting because I had a small home, so we working from home wasn't the thing back then. So we ended up getting like a small executive office, so that was part of the expenses that we ended up incurring. But yeah, it was like $40,000-$50,000.
I mean, 40, 50,000 would have gone a long way.
Oh yeah,
Back
no,
then,
I mean
with price points.
at the time we were like, okay, we need money for EMDs and we need money for expenses. So we were like, I mean, it was like $15,000 covered like 6 months of expenses. And we're like, if we just can close one property in that time, like we're fine. And we ended up, I don't remember the specific numbers, but we did like 4 or 5 wholesales that first 6 months or the last 6 months of 2011. And we easily did 15 to 20 in 2012.
Wholesales?
We started, yes, most of them were wholesales. We started flipping in 2012.
Gotcha.
And we did the same thing. We hired somebody that knew what the hell they were doing. And we're like, hey, we want to flip. We got a property. You flip it and let us
kind of
learn
be a partner
from
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We brought in money. They brought in the skill. That's how I've learned most of my things. Like,
how I learned how to do the investing side too. I wouldn't have been able to do it if it wasn't for me trying to do it myself. I would have been too scared.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken the risk.
Yeah.
Especially like someone starting out like with 50 or 60,000, they don't know how to invest or they don't know how to flip or buy a rental property properly.
Oh, you can lose that money real quick.
You can lose it real fast.
And a lot of people, what I see a lot of people do too is like they educate themselves to analysis paralysis. Mm-hmm. Like I could have probably taken that money and joined a course of how to flip a house. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot, like I would rather fail forward and actually take the action that I know is going to result in the result that I'm trying to achieve. So, and it worked. I mean, it could have gone bad too, but I guess it worked out.
And then you guys started doing a ton of direct marketing back in the day. Cause I remember when we started working together, when I was an agent, when I was able to relist all this stuff in North County, you guys were doing a ton of direct marketing back then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you guys doing? Direct mail or cold callers or?
Yeah. I also had experience in marketing. So that was kind of my baby. I started studying Dan Kennedy when I was in college. Mm-hmm. Another kind of old school Robert Kiyosaki style guru, but for direct marketing. So yeah, we I don't remember when or what year we started that, but we were doing direct mail. We did we didn't do cold calling at that time. We did direct mail. We did pay-per-click. Mm-hmm. Did SEO a little bit.
I think when I started getting stuff from you guys, it was like 2014, 2015. I think it was around that time. It sounds about right.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
We built up a decent machine for the marketing. I mean, we got like, I think we were like towards the end, we were like, at that time was a lot. We were spending like $30,000 a month, which, that's probably 50, 60 today.
Right. But back then you were also doing like 40 to 60 deals a year, right?
Yeah.
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 So 30 when one would pay for itself.
Yeah. That's the idea.
Yeah. It's awesome. What are your thoughts on wholesaling nowadays?
Well, man, there's okay. So personally speaking, I don't love it. And this is not a judgment. It's just my own. Like I just don't like to do it. Mm-hmm. I never liked to do it. It was a necessary evil to get. I'm not saying it's evil, but for me, it was a necessary evil. I think it's like from a standpoint of like a business model. Like I look at it, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I was a wholesaler. It sometimes be a lot less stressful because now we primarily flip.
There's less risk.
Less risk. It's a different business altogether.
Yeah.
But so personally speaking, I don't love it. I just don't like doing it. And so because I don't like doing it, I mean, I'm not passionate about doing it well. And, and therefore I just know me, I'm not going to have the grit and persistence to figure it out.
Right.
There are some, the way I see the wholesaling model, especially here in San Diego, the way I see the wholesaling model shift and expand, I guess, or evolve. I actually I like it better. I like it a little bit more now. It's not just about like the way it used to be is like, how low can we get that offer accepted?
Right.
And then how high can we get the
wholesale fee?
The fee.
Right.
And then like, I'm not saying we did this, but I know people who did. And then you get the fee and you're like, oh, that's a 30 grand fee. Can we cut down the seller anymore? Can we figure out a reason to get a price reduction? And it's like, it always to me felt dirty.
Yeah.
But now the way I see, you know, some bigger shops doing it, I'm like, okay, they're not totally trying to, it felt like scamming the seller. A lot of the approaches, what it seems like is they're going out as if like, hey, you want to sell off market? We have options for you to sell off market. And so I'm starting to wrap my head around the idea of like getting back into it. But we've dabbled in like the direct seller model for 3 years, but I haven't fully committed because it is a lot. Like to do it well these days, it's really hard. Like the guys that do it really, really well, they have some impressive marketing machines and then some impressive salespeople. And so it's a little bit daunting to get back into. But anyway, you asked about wholesaling. Personally, I think wholesaling, is, I have an affinity towards it because it allowed me to get into the business I want to get into.
Right.
I just personally don't love doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that was the way that I honestly got started in like the real estate investing side, except I had like equity interest. So it was a little bit different. But if I didn't do that in the beginning, there was no way I'd be able to save up enough capital to start funding my own deals or doing my own stuff. I mean, that was the way I could catapult myself. So I think there's like a necessary evil, but it's interesting because I think the way that I look at it now, I agree with you. I think a lot of the wholesalers nowadays are going in and saying like, hey, we'll guarantee you this price and we're going to send it out to all of our investor lists, but we're going to guarantee you this number. If you're comfortable with that, great. And then they're not going back and they're finding someone to buy that deal. But it's just interesting. You look at the Facebook groups all the time and it's always someone trying to like get your information and all that stuff. I look at it and I'm just like, they probably don't have any deals locked up. This is probably just fishing for like cash buyers, at the beginning of the year. I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is a little weird.
It is a fully different business model. And I don't think people talk about that enough in like the investment world. Like again, wholesaling is not investing. Wholesaling, even flipping, isn't necessarily investing. It's speculating. Investing is putting your money into an asset and letting that asset grow and then getting the cash flow from it. That's investing.
Flipping is income.
Yeah.
It's a job. It's active income. Yeah.
And wholesaling is just another business model to create active income. And I think I think when people are getting into the investing world and they just need to understand the difference. If you're going from a full-time job to wholesaling, all you're doing is saying, hey, I'm taking this source of active income and I'm going to go spend my attention to get this source of active income. And there's a lot of room to grow. There's like there's a high upside in this getting the active income. And it's a great way to grow your cash available to go invest, but it's not investing.
Right. I mean, a lot of people, I think, from real estate lending, wholesale, they end up starting flipping, and then they take that and potentially go into multifamily. I feel like everyone has like their facets that they go through or the steps until they get into the actual investing world because they need to build up capital.
Yeah. The mistake I see people make though is like, okay, they're a wholesaler, and then they get decent enough at that, and then they're like, okay, well, now I'm going to start being an agent or I'm going to start flipping, and all they're doing is spending their time on more active income. Where if they just spent their time on growing their wholesaling business and scaling it to the point where that's creating the active income instead of trying to go different ways to get income. Then you just take that money and go invest it. And just keep focusing on the active income, and then focus on and take your money, put it into passive income, then go back and focus on active income. But a lot of people just jump from sources of active income thinking, oh, the grass is greener.
Right.
And you end up not, first off, those are the same people that end up going to buy the Benz or something else that's going to just continue to grow their monthly budget before they ever invest.
And then they have to keep increasing their income, which doesn't help them invest with passive income.
Yeah.
What does your portfolio look like in terms of rentals? And are you buying single family rentals? Are you doing multifamily?
Yes, and yes. I always want to do more. Like I wish I was doing more. I wish I did more earlier. We have. I think we've got 16 units right now.
Right, I saw that. Where's Alpine? Right.
What's that?
Alpine?
No, that's in it on top of.
Oh, okay.
That's a 13 unit building in Alpine.
Gotcha.
But it's not rented up yet, so I don't count that as a unit. I mean, I really don't love the single family investing here in San Diego. I mean, the cash flows are terrible. But I mean, I pick and choose and find the ones that we're going to keep. And the thing I love in San Diego from a long-term holds perspective is the buying and building ADUs. Well, depreciation. Phenomenal.
And appreciation.
And well, yeah, that too. Although it didn't work out too well in the latter half of this year.
Yeah.
So we have about, again, like 16 units rented up. We've got the 13 unit apartment building, and then we've got 3 developments in progress, early stages, but that's 50 units.
Are you planning on keeping those, or are you going to end up?
I hope so.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, the one, now that I'm hoping that we're at a steady pace of, I'm not looking to expand my monthly nut anymore. Like I don't need anything else. So the goal here is like, as much as we can hold on to,
right,
the better, as long as it's cash flowing.
And it's interesting with the multifamily stuff, the stuff that I'm learning about, it's like, it's not even based like with single family, right? Your house value is based on what your neighbor's house sold for. Where multifamily is based on cap rate or cash flow, right? The values, I feel like when you analyze them, are different. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what I've been learning recently is it's based on how much you can cash flow. So if you go in and you buy it for, let's say, 2 or 3 million, you put money into it, you raise rents, you get it to where it's a 6-7 cap, right? Then it's worth a different amount, but it's not based on comps, right? It's based off cap rate.
Yes, but you still use comps because you got to figure out what investors in that area are willing to pay for that cash flow. So it mainly, once you find an area, like the cap rates don't change that much that often, but they have started creeping up a little bit. I mean, what I feel like is going to start happening is because all this bonus depreciation is going to start to wind down unless they change the law. I feel like cap rates, people talk about interest rates driving down cap rates. And I think that has a part of it, has something to do with it, because obviously lower interest rate, higher cash flow. And so cap rates come down. I hope that makes sense for people. If you don't understand the cap rate calculation, Google it, and then it'll make sense. It's too confusing to try to map it out here. I am going to be very interested to see how the bonus depreciation wind down affects what people are willing to pay for commercial buildings
moving forward.
Yeah. So it was 100% bonus depreciation in year one last year, 2022. Now in 2023, that's 80 and then 60 and then 40.
Interesting. They just did that for the car thing too.
Yeah. It's all the same thing.
Interesting. I didn't know that was for the.
So I don't know if it's gonna be very, like, I know from the standpoint of like, okay, I got a bunch of active income that I need to write off. Like that to me is like, dude, the depreciation is, it took me years to understand it. But then when I started making money and talking to CPA, I was like, holy crap. Like, I could buy this property and save that much money on my taxes.
And how many years is it for? Is it 30 that you can do the bonus depreciation, the 100% bonus depreciation? It's over a 30-year term?
No, the bonus depreciation just takes, oh shit, we're going to get really complicated here. So the IRS allows you to depreciate a real estate asset, right? It's like over 27 years. Bonus depreciation allows you to take the majority of the depreciation. They have different tranches of depreciation. Again, I'm going to mess this up because I don't know all the details, but it's like, this amount of money can be depreciated over a 5-year term. This part of the building can be depreciated over a 10-year. You get it? Okay.
Right. No, it's like whatever the depreciation is, you can do it over a 27-year period, whatever your accountant will allow you, right? And then you can take it in that first year as 100% of it.
Yes. It's just accelerating all of it into year one.
Right.
But it doesn't continue to, you don't get the same amount year two.
No, I know. Okay, it's just that first year and you take it, but it's over. That's why I was asking I thought it was 30 years, but 27 or whatever that figure is.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Good. Anyway, I forgot what the question was now.
No, we're just going on a tangent.
Portfolio. Yeah.
Is your plan to do more multifamily? I feel like with a lot of investors, people who flip first, they then go into the multifamily space to buy more assets to hold on to as rentals. Because you guys already know how to raise money from a flipping standpoint, and then raising money for multifamily, I think would be even easier, and especially because you guys have a ton of assets, right? You can use the assets with the lending side as well. Is your plan to do more in that space?
So my plan. I love flipping. I as of right now, I have no desire to stop it. I mean, my goal for our company is to really, like, we kind of lost focus in the last 6 months. The goal is to really focus and be the best fudging flipper in San Diego. I'm trying to be better. But as for like long-term investing, the other thing that I'm really leaning into right now is development. The bonus ADU laws here in San Diego, they just got even better just this year. But they sunset in like 3 to 5 years. This is like, and I'm afraid to even say this out loud because I don't want people to know this, but like this next 3 to 5 year period is like the golden age to be a developer of multifamily small apartment buildings or even large apartment buildings here in San Diego. The amount of density they are allowing and the way they're allowing it is pretty incredible. And they're really like they're really focusing on, as a city, they're starting to focus on getting better on the permitting process, which is my biggest argument with any municipality that says they want more units. It's like, well, fix your permitting.
Right.
And it sounds like they're really serious about doing that. And so I'm focused on 3 things: flipping for active income, and then we have a construction company and we're building ADUs and small apartment buildings. That is what I want to be the best at. We're really good at flipping, and because of that, we've gotten really good at construction, how to manage our costs and then how to do stuff quick at quality. That's the goal. And then to take that, and we've got all the really, really skilled people go develop our own projects. And so that's all the focus. I'm trying to keep it super simple. So flip and construction for income, take that money, go raise it, go raise more money, go put in syndications to go
do multifamily.
Go build multifamily.
What is that goal for 2023? Do you have a number, like for flips?
For flips,
yeah.
60 flips.
Okay.
Building 60 ADU units for clients.
60?
60. And then 4 new developments on top of the 3 that we have.
So you guys take outside business for the construction company too. So like if I wanted an ADU at my house, you guys would still do that. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's our bread and butter now. We've gotten really good at that too. So
I feel like that's the only way. Like me owning my house for the last 4 years, like I could cash flow if I rented my house out now, but I just don't own very much. But I'd really like if I was to put an ADU where my garage is and I move out of that place, like, or I just pay for an ADU in the back, like it would cover my entire mortgage plus what it would cost to build that.
Yeah.
And I'd actually cash flow.
Yeah. We have a couple properties that I hold and I'm just waiting, when the ADU, just even building one ADU in San Diego, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. Like people go invest in like Oklahoma. Okay, you'll go to Oklahoma or Nebraska to go get a cash flowing asset, and maybe you get that golden ratio return of, the idea is you pay $200,000 and you get that 1% of per month. So you pay $200,000, you get $2,000 per month. That's like that barely exists anymore because so many people are pouring into rental real estate. But you can do that if you're willing to do the work in San Diego, where you take $200,000 and there's crazy financing programs available for this. So you don't have to have $200,000 cash. And you can build an ADU for less than that and cash flow for more than $2,000.
No, for sure. I mean, the average rent's like $2,300 or $2,500, something like that.
If you build it depends on where you're at. Like, if you built I think it's like, if you built a 1-bedroom in, let's just say Grant Hill area, I think it's, which isn't the high end neighborhood, but it's affordable. So I think it's like $1,800, if it's new, I think it's about $1,800 for a 1-bed.
So 1% roll would probably apply.
Even actually, no, it's probably more like 2,000 now. I can't remember. I read research off the top. Anyway, I'm just beating a dead horse. It's freaking awesome. So yes, build an ADU. Yeah.
I was smiling when you were talking about Oklahoma because I've been making offer. Well, I made an offer on a portfolio. There was a portfolio of homes.
Fine. Oklahoma was great.
So, well, it's interesting that you say that because I'm just realizing it now, but I had to do it myself. I had to go in to kind of experience it and kind of go down that path of looking at stuff out there, even though it was out of state, even though I had no idea anything about the area, but the numbers look good, right? Because I look here in San Diego, I can't even make, like, even on flip numbers, I can't even make a rental make sense. Like a single family home makes sense here.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it won't make sense. So, excuse me. Last year, I was in negotiations on a portfolio of 17 houses. They were all worth between $65,000 and like $125,000. All of them needed work, like full rehabs.
Okay.
But the numbers, like on paper, looked really good. Like the deal would have cash flowed like $5,000 a month. But having a portfolio was different because they listed it for like 1.9 million, and then I was trying to get them down to like 1,650. But at that, I would have still had to put a shitload of money in it. It would have been a lot of capital out of my pocket. Then I would be flying back and forth to like go look at all of them and go do all that. And I'm just like, and the market was shifting during that time. So I was just like, all right, I need to take a back seat. I need to like settle down a little bit. Like this was cool idea. Don't know the area, but let me focus in my backyard.
Yeah. I love the idea of investing out of state. The reason I haven't is because I don't have anybody on the ground that I can trust. And the only people that I know that have successfully invested out of state, there's two ways. You're going to go to a company that does it for you, right? I forgot the name.
Like a turnkey rental.
Turnkey rental. But then, your cash flow isn't very sexy. You're not getting that 1% return. They are squeezing every dollar they can.
They are a theoretical wholesaler.
Yeah.
Because they're marking up, they're doing exactly what you do here in San Diego.
Your cap rate on your money is like maybe 6%, right? It's not that much better than you can get here. But it, allows you to get leverage returns, you get the depreciation and all that. And it's a true passive investment, which is the idea here. So I'm not knocking it. It's actually a really good model. I feel like if you've got money, you don't have time, great model, right? If you got a company that you trust. The other way that I've seen it work is only when they have like somebody on the ground that's like somehow equity partnership in whatever they're doing, buying, flipping, renting, whatever. And it's somebody they trust wholeheartedly. And even them, like those relationships go through struggle, just like any business partnership. So I've always loved the idea of doing out of state. I haven't. We used to like syndicate out of state, which is different.
Mhm.
Like you get a big apartment building, you got an on-site manager.
Right.
You can go out there a couple of times a year, and it's not that big of a deal. But
Mhm.
doing these small single families, I haven't been able to wrap my head around it. And I try to take cues like, okay, think about like there's like rich people, and then there's like really, really wealthy people. Like, what are the really wealthy people doing? And I've been asking myself this a lot lately. Like, do really wealthy people have a bunch of Airbnbs? No, they don't. They focus on growing their active income, investing in passive investments. And it's completely shifted my mind because I was always jealous of people having like Airbnbs and thinking like, oh, look at all the cash flow they're making. But it's a lot of fucking work.
It's a lot of work.
And that's the same thing. The same way I think about out of state real estate now. Like, I'm not knocking it. It just doesn't. I haven't been able to make it make sense for me. And when it does make sense, it's usually big apartment buildings,
Right.
because those are self-managed. Those are passive.
And I had to learn that for myself because I started Cincinnati was the other place that I was looking, but this was more recently. I think I've written like 4 or 5 offers there, but the stuff on market like is fairly decent. Like 3 months ago, I wrote on a duplex that was out there, but the duplex was listed at like 179. The comps in the area, like it probably could have been a good flip too. Like the comps were at like 330, but it could have rented out for almost $2,750 a month. But I would have had to put probably 75 into it. So I was trying to negotiate and get it down to like 125. They obviously told me to go fuck off. But, and I'm kind of glad. It was kind of a blessing in disguise because then what? I'm going to go have to fly out. I'm going to go have to meet with them. Thankfully, I met with like a really solid agent who like had contractor connections and was helping me and kind of guiding me through. But still, that's one of those mistakes that you would have probably gotten a draw from a hard money lender and paid the contractor. And then those would be the people that disappear on you with, 20 or 30 grand that you then have to go.
You can have.
Yeah. Those horror stories.
I'm not saying don't do it, but what I feel like in this info business guru age and social media, people look on social media and be like, look what they're doing. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel good enough because I'm not doing what they're doing. I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing because I'm not investing in real estate. So then they go, people like feel inclined to like, they have to go do this thing. And I went through this whole thing too. I did this when I can't remember how old I was, 20 grand, made a bunch of commission, kept my income low. And I was like, I got like 40 grand. I'm going to go buy a property in Indiana. Why? I don't know. Cause I could. And I almost did it. And it would have been a freaking disaster. It was a rundown piece of poop. I was going to fly out there and I'm like, the numbers are stupid bad. I'm not even like, I was really young and not experienced in doing it. And I still almost pulled the trigger, but I felt at the time, I was like, this is what all the gurus are teaching me to do, right? I gotta go invest my money. No.
I think with social media these days, I find myself comparing myself all the time to these other people. And I'm like, how do they own all these properties? Or how are they doing all this? Why am I not there when I'm similar ages to them or whatever it is? But it's hard not to look at that kind of stuff and think you need to rush into something. And sometimes I feel like I'm forcing it. Like there was a house that I looked at the other day that I felt like I was forcing it. I was like trying to make the numbers work for a rental property. And like with investing, you can't force numbers to make stuff work. I mean, that's how you get burned.
That's probably half the reason why the values are so high these days. It's because a bunch of people are just forcing it. And I'm not saying this from a seat of like, I'm not guilty. I do the same thing. Like I'm looking at these flips and I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't work. But if I add $10,000 to this exit price, it will work. Right. I'm like, no, okay, Brian. No, that's not how this game works. But absolutely, I've done it. And honestly, I try desperately to stay off of social media. I will put content out on social media, but I try not. And again, find myself still falling into the trap. I go through these phases where I delete them from my phone, and then suddenly, like 3 months later, shit, they're back on my phone. But social media, And that whole, like, I did this class on financial freedom.
I was on it.
Oh yeah, you were. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the real thing that people do. They're like, they got $50,000 and they feel like a failure because they are not putting that to work in passive income. And I'm like, well, stop. Like, first off, you got to get an emergency fund. Like, we all need an emergency fund. And then after you have an emergency fund, you build up that $50,000. Now, focus on growing your active income. That is how you're going to get wealthy.
Yeah.
These guys that are really truly, and not to say that wealth is the end all be all of it, but they, they do certain things a certain way because it's how it works, right? And so you take your clues from where you want to go, not from the people that are shouting from, with their bullhorns about what they've done. You just so anyway, the really wealthy people don't do that. They focus on growing their businesses to create active income, and then they take that active income and put it into passive stuff. So a lot of people make a little bit of money, and then they spend all their time on how can I invest this money to make more money, and they end up taking their eyes off the active income. And when you do that, you're hurting yourself more than it's opportunity cost. Mm-hmm. Like, just give that $50,000 to a syndicator. Mm-hmm. And make your 20% IRR and smile all the way to the bank, because you're being able to spend all your time growing your active income, and you're going to make much more money with that time,
right,
than you are trying to figure out how to flip a house in Cincinnati.
It's interesting that you said that you were trying to force numbers like on a flip. Mm-hmm. From how experienced you are, right, and trying to force numbers. It's interesting for people that don't they don't know anything about real estate, or they're trying to understand real estate, and someone like you is still trying to force numbers. Like, imagine the people that have less experience that's looking all that stuff up. Like, of course, like, that's probably what's been happening too, forcing numbers and force investing. And I look at all these people that have Airbnbs. They may say they're cash flowing. I would be surprised.
I've got 3 Airbnbs. It's a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. And more power to the people that do this successfully. We've made more money Airbnb than a long-term rental for sure. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And we've had so many issues and failures with it that at the end of the day, had I just long-term rented it, even at a cash flow loss, it probably from an opportunity cost of capital, I probably would have been better off. And again, people, I am terrible at the Airbnb. There's a lot of people that are really good at it. And my realization is we just need to go hire the manager that's really good at Airbnb. That maybe there's some people that like do this as their active income on their own properties. And that's what it is. It's active income.
I heard it's finding a super host. So the guy that we interviewed before, he has an Airbnb in Big Bear. And so what he did was he hired a super host on Airbnb, and he was a partner in it. So on the Airbnb website, you can have a super host manage your property, so you get better ratings and you go to the top, kind of like a Yelp review. So they manage it for him, obviously, like with a management fee and everything else. But he doesn't have to deal with anything. The only time he has to deal with something is if they call him for a broken toilet or some other bullshit that comes up.
Yeah, we have people, so I've always had somebody manage it in-house. And again, done it serviceably, but you hear about all these sexy stories about Airbnb, and I'm like, I haven't experienced sexy story. Mm-hmm. I've experienced, we made some money. It was a lot of work though. Mm-hmm. And I'm about ready to be like, okay, I just want the passive. They are great Airbnb assets, but I would rather pay someone the management fee and let them take their chunk of change. Managers earn their money, right? Airbnbs,
right,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I never would consider doing property management myself. It sounds like an absolute nightmare. And it takes away from my active income.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what, I know we were talking before this all came on, so I kind of want to get back to it. The Redfin, the Zillow, the iBuyer stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I kind of forgot like what we were talking about, but I think, a lot of what's happened in San Diego the last couple of years with numbers, right? We're looking at a lot of these iBuyers that came in, seeing a frothy market, trying to pick up these houses, especially with these massive marketing budgets, doing TV advertising and all that stuff going in. I'm sure you've probably negotiated with sellers that have had offers with Redfin.
They're still out there. They're still making offers.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I thought they shut down completely.
Well, Open Door.
Okay, Open Door. I thought Redfin did too.
Yeah. No, Open Door is still making offers.
Oh, okay.
Redfin is done. Zillow offers
done.
is done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For our space, the iBuyers have done so much good. They have educated an entire generation or multiple generations of homeowners about the idea of a quick, convenient cash sale.
I like that perspective.
I've done a couple presentations on this about just don't try to fight tech. Like just kind of join up and learn from them. And they understood the desire of a client that they didn't like. The traditional sales process is flawed. It's a pain in the ass. And they came in and tried to solve it. But by trying to solve it, they had billions of dollars in marketing budgets that just went out and educated the entire marketplace about this idea of taking a little bit less money for a cash sale. And for those who were not in the business in 2011, 2012, like if you're going directly to a homeowner back then, they're embarrassed as all hell to be talking to you, and they don't want anyone to know that they're thinking about selling for cash behind the scenes, right?
Interesting.
Now you go, everybody that a listing agent talks to, it's like they want a cash offer. They just want to know what the number is.
Well, I feel like the deals that any real estate investor are looking at are all like, we don't want to deal with going on the market. A lot of times too, it's maybe not even dealing with an agent sometimes, right? With the direct to seller stuff. A lot of them just know that their house needs an investor. They don't want to deal with
that. Was the case, but it was shadow. It was like people were embarrassed by the idea of selling for cash back then. Now it's like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's very popularized.
It's not a stigma. That has changed the nature of our business for forever. I mean, what I do for forever. I mean, everybody now is like, they understand, like in this talk I give, it's like, we live in an Amazon inspired world, right? Everybody wants quick and easy. And the iBuyers gave that to them. The iBuyers educated them that was possible. So even if they go away, they have made an indelible difference in our marketplace. And they've made what we do as renovators more relevant. The other side of that is the HGTV inspired world, because us millennials are like, we want all the nice shiny things, and it's gotta be all trendy. So those two things combined is like, we get more value now for our fixed up houses than we like a premium compared to what we used to.
Right.
Anyway, that's not what you asked.
But that also created too, we can touch on it. That also created, like, the HGTV movement created mom and pop investors as well, that looked at it like a shiny object to go start doing their flipping or real estate investing. But I would be very surprised if a lot of those people make money, because on most most flip transactions, let's say pre this frothy market that we've had, but like, let's say 2014, 2015, 2016, like your average profit was probably 30 to 40 grand, right? Yeah. So like, but these people are looking at the HGTV with these numbers of like, they made 100,000 or 90,000 per flip in this house in Texas. And it's
not factoring in any closing costs,
right,
financing costs. And we were making 30, 40,000 a flip, but our margins were bigger. Right. Like, it's just the prices were lower. Like,
well, yeah, your ROI is still the same as I'm sure what it is now.
No, it was better back then.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You remember the rule of like 80% minus repairs, 80% of ARV minus repairs is what your offer price is? That actually held true back then. Now it's like 82 to 85%. Like, our margins are slimmer. But going back to the answer about the iBuyers. Whatever, owe them a lot because they've made the market more agreeable to what we do, and they but I was for a while there I fought it, and then I was like, you know what, this is what the market wants, and this is going to be around, and I think it's going to be around, but I don't think Open Door has it figured out either. I mean, Redfin admitted they didn't. Zillow Offers admitted they didn't. There's Open Door and OfferPad, the big guys left. And what we were talking about just before we came on, it's like we had the most volume of, well, I don't know if it was the most volume, but a high volume of transactions in 2021 and early 2022. And the highest appreciation pace that we've ever had, ever. And they still didn't make money. And I mean, I don't see how the business model is going to survive. You can't, even if you pump on all of these different services that they're trying, title, escrow, lending, their lending business has failed because it's a terrible time to get into lending. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the service, people want it, which bodes well for local, smaller shops that actually can run at a profit.
Right.
It's really hard to do anything, I feel like, at scale in this flipping world because the market is so localized.
Yeah, I feel like with them, they were doing like virtual flipping, which I don't know how you can do that in a market like San Diego. Maybe you can get away with it in like the Midwest.
Well, you can if the prices are going up.
True, but they still did it, right?
Well, they made money on the properties. They just had so much overhead. They didn't make money at the end of the day.
Interesting. But in this market, I mean, when you're in a changing market, right, and we're not in an upward swing, we're probably more in like a downtrend at this point, right? It's a lot harder. You're being more conservative. You're kind of basing your numbers off of, all right, let's say the house is worth 1% per month for the next 90 days of hold time just to be safe. Like, they're not going to be able to figure that out because they're not local, right? They're in wherever they're located.
That's, the CEO of Redfin, that's what he said when they decided to close down their shop. He said, I mean, he's always talked about how dangerous the iBuying model is, but they did it, they did it anyway. But they never went all in like Zillow or Open Door. But he said, we are not doing this anymore because the numbers that we would have to give homeowners in order to make this work is offensive. And we don't want to be a part of that. And those numbers are what true investors actually have to pay to give the cash, and that's just the name of the game.
Right.
But
I think they would probably lose a little bit of a credibility if they were going in at those prices. And
yeah, I mean, when you're Redfin and your main business model is commissions on real estate, right? Primarily,
right.
You don't want to throw the bathwater out with the baby, or whatever, baby out with the bathwater, whatever that saying is. You want to kill your business model to try to do something new.
Right.
Anyway, but it's pretty. It's fascinating to me. The whole real estate tech, and we're gonna look back at this time and be like, okay, it was a bubble. It was an asset bubble across the board. Tech in real estate is getting clobbered. Compass is clobbered. Open Door, Zillow Offers, clobbered.
A lot of big stock names.
and I mean, when they gave away free money, like the it was free money is so people get loose with it and they're taking big ass risks because there's not much downside when you have free money
and sub 3% interest rate. I'm locked in right now, 2.75. I'm like,
that's what I mean, free money.
Yeah, it's
so. How it looks in the future, I don't know. I do think whether Open Door survives or not, I don't know. I'm so shocked that they haven't announced even more layoffs than they have, but because the financials are just god awful.
Yeah, I mean, most of their bread and butter, right, is all the agent relationship stuff. I mean, that's kind of what they stayed with, and then they started the subsidiaries, and then with escrow, title, and then lending, right? But like in the beginning with like Zillow and Redfin, most of their profit margins were all from the agent driven marketing, wasn't it?
Well, Zillow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zillow. I mean, I don't know what, I don't really, I think Redfin's just the agent model, right? Don't they? They don't sell leads.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, again, it's fascinating. The guy I was telling you about, for any of the listeners that care, I'm an expert on this stuff, but the real estate tech is fascinating. And this guy, Mike Delpreet, I got to give him a shout out. I don't know him, but he puts out good content. He's a professor somewhere in Colorado, but he's kind of owned this space of real estate tech. And so he followed the iBuyer wave up and down, and there's a bunch of other tech companies that are playing around in the real estate space. Again, they're all trying to solve a really good problem. I just don't know if they have the end all be all solution for it yet. And the problem is it's a pain in the ass to sell your house.
Yeah. I think for our market, LA, anywhere in I think California in general, I think it's a tough market. Like I think you have to be local in order to do like the cash sale iBuyer process. Like I think that would be really challenging as what they're doing, or it's not going to be a profitable business.
It's hard.
Yeah.
When you have, so I lived in San Marcos for a while. We lived in an area where literally a half a mile away, you had a house that's $200,000 more expensive than our house. How would you know that if you're just looking at an algorithm that's telling you that the house is worth this much money? That's all over. I mean, that doesn't happen as often. Like when you're out, Midwest,
right.
If there are differences, it's, a couple, 10, 20, $25,000.
Right.
It's a big deal, I guess, as a relation to percentage of the value of the home. But still, you have a lot to lose.
Yeah. I mean, across from you, my mom lived on the other side of you, and her home values compared to your guys's, yours definitely was in the millions. Hers is not in the millions. But it's interesting because you literally like less than a quarter mile. Yeah, very close.
And a price per square foot. Like, and you really, even if you drive those neighborhoods, you're like, okay, I mean, they look the same.
They look exactly the same.
Why is this house? I mean, I guess when you go into it, you got higher ceilings and all that stuff. But I mean, come on. Anyway, fascinating. So I don't know the answer to the iBuyer problem. I don't know if Open Doors survives, but I personally, again, like I will always toot the horn for for all the investors that invest in Open Door. Thank you, because you educated an entire U.S. housing market. Cash. There is a reason sometimes to take less money for convenience of sale. That's what CarMax did with used cars, right? It's basically what Open Door is trying to do with and even in their vision, they're talking about creating a marketplace for existing homes, basically an MLS that isn't under the protection of real estate associations, and that's what CarMax did in used cars. But I mean, you can put used cars on a lot. You can't put the house on a lot. So I don't know how they're going to solve it. But people are tired. When I sold my house, I hated it. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And we all have busy schedules now, and it's only like with this whole new AI thing. I mean, our life is only getting like more and more easy. and so whenever we're inconvenienced with trying to sell a house, it's like, this is uprooting everything that we do.
But I also think too, a lot of the stuff that you guys buy, those people are a very different demographic than someone like me or you just selling our primary residence. Like in most cases, there's probably been a death on the property, or the house is pretty much destroyed or had fire damage. Like they need to sell to you, right? They need to sell to a cash buyer. So I think, not only did Open Door, Redfin, and all those companies like make it easier and more convenient to make that publicized, but most of the people that are selling to you anyways need to sell to you because it's going to be a cash buyer that buys that house anyways. It's not going to be a property that goes conventional or FHA or VA because they're not going to qualify.
Yeah. Well, okay. For the most part.
For the most part.
But still, there's several houses that people could have got a lot more money selling on the market, would have qualified for financing, but they just want cash.
Right.
And we'll do those. I love doing the big remodels, the big transformations. That's the fun.
I love the fucked up ones.
I mean, to be able to like, that's why I, personally, it's not a judgment, but it's just a personal preference. I love the process of taking something that's ugly or not as functional and then making it something. It was never like, it's better than it ever was before, even if you go back to when it was built. Like, it's just really cool to be a part of that process. And, and now in these days to build a team that's doing that. Like, I don't even get to do it anymore. That I love. But there is still a lot of value for people, like where the house doesn't need that much work, carpet, paint, but they just don't want to do it.
Right.
And for us as a company and for them, if there's a win-win situation where they're getting the amount of money that makes them happy, we're getting the property at an amount that we're going to make the profit that makes it worth our time, energy, money to go do that.
Right.
There's a lot of, that's those before iBuyers, those still existed, harder to come by. Now they come by more often.
Right.
Yeah. So
let's dig into, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's dig into Real Report. So Real Report, by the way, I read every single report that you send out, which I think is genius, because to me, I look at it like it's a way for you to add value to your agent partners and still funnel in leads for flips. That's the way I look at it. But I think you nerd out on the data anyways. So
now I do.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun.
I nerd out on the data. So when you're thinking of, because last year you took a little bit of a pause when the market kind of shifted a little bit, right? Like you're just kind of held off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
for like a month or 2 months or something like that. Right?
I stopped looking at stuff to buy for a month. We started looking at stuff to buy again a month later, and we bought some.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, we were buying 12 a month in January, February, March.
I think it was smart, right? To take a little bit of a break to see kind of where we were headed, because no one knew.
Yeah.
And still we don't really know where anything is headed.
Yeah.
What are the data points, like when you took that break, what were the data points that, let's say a month later, that you were like, all right, I'm ready to start buying again? Because obviously you're looking at inventory, you're looking at interest rates, but what are the main things that you were looking at that you're like, okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable to get back into it, maybe not full force, right? But like not take my foot off the gas.
I said I would buy, but they were very ugly numbers.
I'm sure.
Like it wasn't, there was a time there where it was just damage control. I was like, oh shit. Okay. Like I can't focus on, like, we're not going to buy anything right now because the numbers that we're going to pay are just stupid low. But we're focusing all our energy. Okay. What do we got to do to sell what we have? And then nothing really changed. Just finally had a time to step back and say, okay, let's tack on negative 3% appreciation every month. And if we can buy something, let's buy it. I mean, I think worst case scenario in my mind is like, okay, values are going to go down 35% very fast. Okay. That's worst case scenario. So let's buy on worst case scenario. And if it's better, then we'll be okay.
Right.
And we bought, we were under contract on like a really long escrow. We had to get a reduction on that. We bought that one, right? And because the seller understood what was happening, I was like, okay, yeah, this sucks, but I got to sell. Don't like doing it, but we had to. And then there was another one that we got that came to us after the fact, and it was just a really quick turn. And so we're like, okay, well, this house just sold in this crappy market. That's a good comp. I'm gonna deduct $30,000-$50,000 off of it, and we'll flip this one anyway. Like I think in Q3 I think we bought 3 houses. In Q4 I think we bought 7. I mean, again, that's down from 36 or 38 in Q1. It wasn't like a magical. I haven't actually felt like, okay, I kind of got an understanding, or like I feel like I can start to feel better about predicting the market until November
of this year.
Yeah.
Of last year.
2022.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I feel like now going into 2023, it's not as predictable because I think rates are going to fluctuate where they're at unless our economy gets worse.
I was having the conversation. I don't know, with one of my buddies. You know, I don't remember what it was about, but I remember specifically saying this, and it stuck with me because as I said, I was like, oh shit, you're right. This is like I've been doing this for 11 years now. This is the riskiest time I've ever done this, flipping houses, because it really still could go any direction.
Right.
We are like right now, it's stupid crazy because as much as we're not affordable, like for the last 4 weeks, buyers have coming out like bonkers.
Right.
And now it feels like bidding wars again. Every property we list is selling. Every property we list is selling the first week with multiple offers and above list. Like, what? But we're on like a razor's edge where we could go with how quickly interest rates are changing up and down
daily.
Like we could go up a half a point tomorrow and that dies, right? And then we have another 2% correction. We are so instant, like news is instant now. It makes Real Report even more valuable. Again, I started writing Real Report for me. I'm a control freak, and what we do is risky. And I'm not like I have found out about myself. I am pretty competitive, and I do enjoy risks. But I am as far like on the risk taker scale. Like I know many people that are way more risky than I am. And I'm pretty damn careful because I get anxious. And so writing Real Report helped handle my anxiety about doing what we do, because I feel like if I'm going to buy a property, I'm signing my name to that property. I'm raising money based on the numbers that I'm telling my investor that we're going to get for this property. I better be damn sure of it. And I better have a reason for why I'm sure. And so Real Report gave me that reason. There was nothing out there that was like tracking this data at a place where I felt like it was helpful to predict in the future. And so that's why I did it. And then as I started, the more I do it, the more I do enjoy it. Like writing this is the first fun one to write in a long time, because it was a monthly update. And so I go deeper and I really like writing about something positive for after 6 months of like pooping on people's dreams, you know, like now.
But you make it funny when you shit on their dreams.
I try. I try to, you know, that's also the fun time. The challenging part about writing about anything to do with the economy is it's boring as all hell. So how can I do this in a way that is actually interesting enough for the layman to read, that isn't like nerding out about the data.
Right. I feel like last year, the way that the market was, it like put me into a depression. Like I feel like I was constantly like reading the news or Real Report. It was like just always so negative, and then ups and downs. And even still now, like CPI beat or miss or whatever it is, like you think it's going to go one way or the other. Nope. Slaps you in the face. The next day, there's another piece of news that comes out that looks like shit for the real estate market. You know, it's like never ending. I feel like every week is like,
I know. And it's hard like to not get hung up in the ups and downs, the daily movements of interest rates, the weekly movements of interest rates. Especially when I write about it, right? It's hard not to. You really can't. You got to pay attention to the trends, not the daily moves. Right. The trends are what matter. And why I started getting more confident in buying in November of 2022 is because the trends started changing.
So what does that trend look like? What is that trend? So are you talking like inventory levels, like what is selling? So what is your
so a lot of things. The trend of interest rates, right? The trend of inflation, the trend of inventory is a big part of that, especially here. The trend of buyer activity as compared to seller activity, the trend of percent list price to where it sells at, right? Like it all started to stop this big ass decline. And again, what I try to pay attention to when I'm deciding what to offer or what my buying formula is going to look like is where are the trends going and what does that mean for future prices? And right now, the way I see it is the trends are looking like it's either going to be flat or prices are actually going to surge higher in Q1. And at the end of Q1 last year, I was looking at the data and I'm like, well, I don't like the look of these trends. I think interest rates are going up and inventory is going up. And so at the end of Q2, our goal last year was to buy 150. In Q1, we bought 38. In Q2, we bought 18. When everybody else was buying like mad, it still was a lot. And I didn't expect it to change as fast as it did. But I started factoring in depreciation at the beginning of April. And that's why I write Real Report, because it helps me, even though we I think we lost on one property in 2020, 21 and the first part of 22, like maybe two we lost money on. And that's, I wish, to be honest, like it should be more like 5% of the properties you're doing. Like if you're doing what we're doing, like if you're not losing a little bit of money, you're not buying if you have the capacity to buy more volume, then you're not buying aggressively enough.
So we're in a competitive market, right? Most of the times you're getting it from a wholesaler and there's, or direct seller or an agent, but they're also sending it to 20 other
even
investors.
direct sellers now.
Yeah.
It's like you're still competing against at least a few. I forgot where I was going, but anyway, whatever. I completely lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
The Q1, because your goal was 150 deals last year. So Q1, 37, 38, Q2, 18.
Oh, yeah,
so you started.
I was just saying, like,
you started getting leaner.
Even though we stopped buying as fast as we were buying, we still missed on a shit ton of properties. Like we lost money just like everybody. But at least I could go to my investors and we have like two major investors, and I was always very open with them. Like, hey, still have confidence in the market. I'm just peeling back on what we're paying and what we're expecting the prices to be. And they all they knew where my mindset was and why I was doing it. I could sign my name on those decisions, and I still feel like some of them I wish I didn't make, but I felt really good about making those decisions at the time because I had the data to back it up, and I felt like I was being more conservative than most of the market. Yeah,
I mean, you can't control what's happening. No one can control the outcome of what's happening. Really, it's just being conservative and being confident. You got to go with your gut, and majority of the time these days.
Yeah, you got to act quick.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Real Report. It's I got to figure. I have a lot of fun with it. I want to keep. I love when people read it. Like I feel like. I mean, I do pour my heart and soul into it, so I might be a little biased. But I feel like, man, if you're in real estate and you want to be in real estate all the time, like it's a shortcut to just to learn the macroeconomics and microeconomic variables that affect what's happening in real estate. If you can talk to people about that, no matter what you do, whether you're an escrow officer, a title officer, an agent, a wholesaler, home warranty, doesn't even freaking matter. If you can just talk confidently about what's happening and why, you'll just be more confident. And if you're more confident, you win. If like in sales, whoever's more confident wins. And anyway,
to that point, I have a hard time because most people don't know who Jerome Powell is. Like I remember going into a real estate office actually multiple times, like after a CPI print or my phone's on no notifications because I'm watching his speech. And then afterwards, was probably not the best speech, probably pretty hawkish, going in and like talking to agents and stuff. And I was like, I was watching the Jerome Powell speech, and they're like, who's Jerome Powell? I'm like, to me, in this market, in this changing market, like if like with most agents, when they're going to go on a listing appointment, most of these people are probably just as educated as anyone else. And they're probably paying attention to this stuff, especially if they're, you know, in their 50s and 60s, people that watch the news probably every single morning or every single day. And you don't know who Jerome Powell is. I think that's very like scary.
Yeah. And you're right. It's a little scary, but at the same time, man, if you, like, I was 2 years into real estate. I didn't know
I was 19, man. I didn't know shit.
Right. I mean, like, you've been, when did you get into real estate?
18, I got my license.
What year?
Oh, sorry.
How are we going to give up?
2000 and between 2008 and 2010.
Okay. So you've been in for 15-ish years.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Dude, you have made the decision that this is your career. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the majority of people in real estate haven't, whether inadvertently or on purpose or not, they haven't like fully committed. And the people that are in for 15 years, I mean, if you're in for 15 years and you don't know who Jerome Powell is, then that's a little scary.
Yeah, I agree. It is definitely the younger demographic that's definitely catered to that. Because I mean, when I was 18, 19, getting into real estate sales, which I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. But when I didn't know shit about shit, right? I was just trying to sell houses and make income and go hang out with my friends.
All you're worried about is making your commission and then living your life.
Right. But I didn't know any better back then. So I wouldn't have known if we were going, I mean, that was 2009. We were still technically in a recession, I think.
The people that do know in our, like, again, that's going to be the difference. You know, it's like, you know, the 20% make 80% of the commission, right? 20% make 80% of the title fees, 20% make 80% of the flips. The people that fully commit, and it's a long-term, like, life commitment. But if you do it, they're the ones that are going to end up getting on top, unless they spend all their time focusing on the economics of it and forget that they got to go sell.
Right.
You know, so it's not exactly that, but the ones that are committed to their craft, which means both knowing what's impacting the real estate market, but then also learning and honing your craft on what you do to actually go make money and serve your clients, whatever that is. For us, that's primarily we're working with real estate agents and other professionals to buy the properties that need fixing up, and we got to be damn good at whatever we got to do to be really good at fixing those properties. Your title agents, you're repping buyers and sellers. I think everybody should have an understanding of economics. You don't have to have the geekiness side, like. But just that's why. Anyway,
I like the geeky side. Sorry, sometimes I sneak onto the EXP Monday meetings, but like in the beginning, I love listening to Kyle's like reports. Like when the market was kind of shifting, well, it was shifting. When the market was shifting a lot, he's insightful with a lot of his stuff that he talks about in terms of the market and where everything was going.
Oh yeah, he's a closet. He's a closet dad.
He's just like you.
Yeah, no, we've geeked out a little bit on some text messages, but he write. You know, we've had similar thought processes from the beginning. He doesn't write a weekly report like I do, but he'll put it out on his social channel every once in a while, and they're freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
I've stolen some things from him. I think he might have stolen some things from me. I don't know.
Yeah, we all have to steal back and forth a little bit. All right, to wrap it up, your predictions for 2023. This is just opinion. So it's whatever you think is going to happen. I don't think we're going to get ever sub 4% interest rates for a long time, if ever in our lifetime. I'm curious to see what happens with prices. I would be very shocked if we had a positive year this year, but I could be surprised because it's ever changing every day. But what are your thoughts going into this year?
I refuse to answer.
Why? You don't want to put yourself out there like that?
I mean, I do every time in my real report. Read real report.
I do read it. I read it this morning.
I know. Well, I'm telling everybody else.
Okay.
Because listen,
he's trying to plug himself. Go to Real Reporter, DM us, and I'll send you what it is.
Yeah, DM because MailChimp for some reason is boycotting my landing page. Okay. I think I at this point, kind of like annual goals, I think anything more than quarterly is kind of silly.
Right.
I don't know, like all of the people that I know that try to make stock predictions, like I subscribe to their newsletters, and even them, they're like, anybody trying to forecast where the market's going to be at the end of the year. I mean, it literally is. It's just for clicks, right?
For sure.
So all I can say is in San Diego right now, inventory is dropping really fast. I don't know where listing volume is going to come from. The people that are selling have to sell because they want to move out of the area, or they need to move into a new school district, or it's death, divorce, the whatever the destruction, whatever all the D's are. They usually have to sell. All of the people that would normally be a part of the selling population, people that are move up buyers, like, hey, I'm going to move from San Carlos to Rancho Penasquitos. Those don't exist as much anymore. I'm sure they're there, but it's rare. And that's a big portion proportion of the people that would normally sell their house. But you can't. Values did not drop enough for for most people to afford the houses. So you just have a lot of people who are just homebound, stuck. So for that reason, I think inventory is going to stay really low. I don't see NODs going up super fast.
They've gone up 200%, but by 200%, they've gone up.
They were like zero.
Well, I know. That's what I was going to say. There's like 200 now compared to zero.
Yeah. And it's still well below the amount that was pre-pandemic. So, home prices are a factor of supply and demand. So if I was going to bet on Q1 at this point, like today, as I kind of wrote about, like my bet is we're actually going to have a surge in prices again. I'm not happy about it. I personally wish it was more like, hey, we're gonna flatten out and just bottom. But the way I see the market dynamic shifting again is like we're gonna have like a little buying spree, and the homes. I mean, I don't think people are going to be like really trying to overpay for homes, but I think it's going to be enough where the median prices are going to start rising.
We're still a little competitive.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be very competitive. I just think, I don't think people are going to be like paying $100,000 over list like they were last year.
Right.
But I do think, we'll get people paying. I mean, we just listed 2 this weekend. We had 125,000 over list, and we have one right now where we have five offers or so. Without countering, we're $5,000 over list. And by the time we counter, we'll probably end up $25,000 over list.
Right.
That dynamic I hear this all over for the last couple of weeks. So, and we haven't even gotten to the legit buying season. So long ass explanation to say Q1, I think we're going to have a bump in price. I think we're going to probably, maybe hopefully at a muted level, we're going to have a similar buyers are tired of it. They're going to go away for a little bit. The dynamic of interest rates is super interesting. I've heard people say 4, and personally now the way I look at it, I think we're going to be around this 5 to 6% range all year. I don't see the market. I don't see the economy. The only way we get down to 4% rates again or lower is the economy just tanks.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Yeah. If we don't,
and if we're there,
then prices are probably going to go down at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have unemployment.
Right.
You're going to have foreclosures, or at least short sales, and so anyway, if you had to put a gun to my head for the whole year, I'd say maybe down 5%. For the first quarter though, I think we have like a bump of like 5% in the first quarter, and then we lose it.
We have to
again.
reanalyze again.
Yeah, I mean every year it goes like that, right? It was a really high up and a really high down last year,
right?
Did you see that we're actually year over year we're like at 0
with what percentage? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Right? Didn't we go up 25% last year? Or was that national?
For what? Last year? Well, no. What I'm saying is like December 2022 compared to December 2021. It was like for attached homes, it was down like a point, and for detached homes, it was up like.
Oh,
3.
interesting. No, I didn't see that.
It'll be interesting to see where we land as of like March of 2023 compared to March of 2022.
I think that's really like the telltale sign, because this seasonally, like our normal market cycle, like November, December, January, like at least for me personally, those months are always slow except for the last like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I am really curious going into February, March, and April if we see an upswing. And typically, like with us, like I'll get pre-opens and a lot more stuff that's kind of in the pipeline. So I'll see like January, February, how March, April, May are going to look like. But I'm curious, like I think that's going to be a real telltale sign coming in to March and April.
Yeah. Volume's going to be down.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right.
Like this whole, we're going to start losing, like people are really going to start leaving the industry in droves. There's been a lot of people sticking around, that are hanging on to hope, but they're not doing the things that's going to make the needle move.
Right.
And we're going to have consolidation. There's going to be a lot of the like bigger players are going to take more market share because they can, and they have the marketing chops and
that's what happens in a down market. That's always what has happened.
Yeah,
the bigger producers always survive.
Their volume's going to be down, but they're going to take more share.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of agents are going to leave the business. A lot of there's going to be more layoffs. You can't lose 40 to 50% of sales volume and not have a contraction of people. So that's going to be, I feel like, the main storyline. And then I hopefully, the prices don't run up again, and we just get it a little bit more
steady.
I like the boring ass market. Sounds amazing to me. It would give me nothing to write about, which would suck a little bit.
Spend more time with the kids, family. Yeah. It's probably a good thing.
Probably
yeah. Well, cool, dude. Well, thanks for coming on. I did want to finish up. Do you remember? So,
what is it? That's
no. I was thinking about it last night. I remember after you took a break from when you went to Darren Hardy and then you came back out. Do you remember me calling you like during that time when you were like just getting started back up again, like thinking about just dabbling and like, I'm going to start small. Yeah. I'm going to
five a year.
I'm going to do like just a few here and there. Like I'm not going to be one of your big fish and blah, 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 blah. Well, look at you now, buddy. I knew, and I literally told you on the phone, I was like, I don't think you have it in you to not go and do what you did before.
Apparently you knew me better than I knew myself. I tell people this, like, I love real estate, but I love building businesses more. Sometimes to my detriment of, like actually enjoying or like having a personal life, and even sometimes to the detriment of like, being more wealthy. Like if I didn't focus so much on growing the business, I probably could put more money out and into passive investments. But I love growing the team. Right. I love being able to do the things that we can do. We do a bunch of give back programs. Right. I freaking love that. And I couldn't do that without a badass team, and building that badass team is like the most fun part of.
Yeah, for sure. I see it in the culture, but I knew you didn't have it into you to not go small.
I know.
But good for you. Good for me too. Good for all of us.
Yeah, now it's developments, man.
I like
developments and flips and ADUs.
Cool.
All right, man.
Sweet, dude. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.